You, Governor?
We are ready to move over. Vic, Governor, ready.
Great. Good afternoon, everyone. Governor Tim Walz here. I now call this meeting of the Executive Council to order. As the chair of the Executive Council, I've deemed that due to the current peacetime emergency and health emergency, that meeting in person was not feasible, and this is permissible under Chapter 12 of Minnesota statutes. Under these conditions, all votes will be taken by a roll call vote. And I would note that Attorney General Ellison is unable to attend because he is currently in court at this time, but the four constitutional officers that are present do constitute a quorum, so we can continue on with the meeting. We have one order of business, and I'd like to recognize Commissioner John Harrington of the Minnesota Department of Public Safety to present and approve Emergency Executive Order 2118, implementing a temporary nighttime curfew for the counties of Anoka, Dakota, Hennepin, and Ramsey counties. Commissioner Harrington, you are recognized for as much time as you may consume.
Governor Walz, member of the Executive Council, appreciate your time today. I will try not to take too much of it. As most all are aware, on April 8th, 2021, Mr. Wright died after being shot by a police officer during a traffic stop in Brooklyn Center. Many Minnesotans, many folks from Brooklyn Center arrived at the scene of that crime to voice both their outrage and their despair and their grief over the taking of that life. Subsequent to the investigation beginning, a group of 200 plus marched to the Brooklyn Center Police Department, where rocks were thrown, officers were injured standing guard, threats to burn the police department down, and then shortly thereafter, the Shingle Creek Crossing Mall was looted, with approximately 20 businesses broken into and many cleaned out. Shortly thereafter, the North Minneapolis area along Broadway and Lowry saw several businesses looted, and then the Lake Street area, which had already been hit in previous riots, was also looted. At peak, there were 24 looting incidents going on in Minneapolis simultaneously, and 4 shootings going on also. In St. Paul, 8 businesses were looted, and 1 was set on fire. Based on this, the Operation Safety Net executive committee or executive group began moving officers in to stop the violence and stop the looting. And in consultation with Minneapolis Police Department, the Minnesota State Patrol, the Minnesota DNR, the Hennepin County Sheriff's Department, the St. Paul Police Department, Ramsey County Sheriff's Department, Anoka County Sheriff's Department, and Dakota County Sheriff's Department, a recommendation was provided that a curfew would be a temporary remedy to allow for nighttime activities to be curtailed, which we believe will have a positive effect on reducing looting and violent crime over the next 24 hours. Our recommendation was to have the emergency order go into effect today in the counties of Anoka, Dakota, Hennepin, and Ramsey County, in conjunction with Minneapolis and St. Paul, both issuing their own curfew ordinances, and that the curfew would last from 7 p.m. tonight to 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. There are exceptions in this, which include all police, fire, medical personnel, and members of the media. Community groups that are authorized by local units of government have also been exempted, so that if we have protectors from Little Earth, for example, or church leaders who are protecting their own churches, they are exempted from the curfew, and we have spelled that out as a lesson learned from earlier. Local Minnesota State Patrol and National Guard are also exempt from the curfew, and we have also made an exemption for individuals traveling directly to and from work or from religious services, those seeking emergency care, those fleeing dangerous circumstances, experiencing homelessness are also exempt. We believe that this is a good order. It has broad acceptance in the law enforcement community, and we believe that it would be prudent for it to be approved.
Thank you, Commissioner Harrington, and I thank the Executive Council again. I think all of us know as we prepared for the verdict, the eventual verdict in the Derek Chauvin trial, lots of preparations were made. Anticipation of that will probably happen sometime next week. The death of Daunte Wright, of course, accelerated that, and once again, folks who are willing to take advantage of a tragic situation to stir chaos and illegal activities. This is meant to get a handle on that, make sure and we're able to exercise what we know can create a safe space for those who are truly expressing their outrage and their First Amendment rights, but make sure that we don't have a repeat of what happened in May and then on a smaller scale last evening in Brooklyn Center and in Minneapolis. And with that, I would open it up to any questions from the Executive Council for Commissioner Harrington. Hearing none, I would call for a motion to approve Executive Order 2118.
So moved.
I now call for a roll call vote of each member. Secretary of State Simon.
Governor, if I may, I'm so sorry. I misunderstood procedurally. I didn't have any questions for the commissioner, but may I be heard just on a couple issues?
Yes, we
Just
will.
generally
We will
speaking.
suspend the vote. You are recognized, Mr.
Great.
Secretary.
No, probably my mistake, Governor. Thank you very much. I just want to thank you for convening this. Commissioner, thanks to you and your team. Just before this call, I got a call from a member of your team because I had some questions and those have been answered. I understand the need for this. I understand that we're trying to protect the public, and that seems justified in this circumstance. Just two things I would say, and I said this to the person from your team who called me literally moments before this call. Number one is I have the hope, and I think we all do, and the expectation that law enforcement enforcing this curfew will act with flexibility, will act reasonably, will not leap to conclusions, will not risk inflaming a situation that cannot be inflamed. I've been given that assurance, of course, and I'm sure we all share that. That's not unique or new, or that's not something that I'm sure I'm just expressing. I think that's extremely important, and I trust the people enough on this call to know and sense that directive has gone out. Number two, while others have said it more articulately, I think it bears repeating. Going forward, we all have a responsibility to do what we can and do not just what we can individually, but collectively to make sure that something like this, meaning the incident that gave rise to all of this, never, ever happens again. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Secretary, and I would associate myself with your remarks. We said in May, never again, and here we sat, and we know that there are things that can make a difference. I would also associate myself with those remarks. It's been made very clear that this is just meant to create space to make it very clear that folks who want to cause destruction or harm to property or persons, that we can clearly identify them. I would note that you're exactly right about being very judicious. Today is the start of Ramadan. We will have a lot of our Muslim brothers and sisters traveling after sundown, and that is, of course, permitted by the EO. But I don't need to tell anybody on this call or anybody in Minnesota that the very nature of traveling is what happened in this case to Mr. Wright. So well put and well noted, Mr. Secretary. Any further discussion?
Governor, if I may.
Yes, Lieutenant Governor, you are recognized.
I would also associate myself with Secretary Simon's remarks and just acknowledge that the family of Daunte Wright will be gathering this evening before the curfew, and just acknowledging the community and the grief and the vigil that will be held there. And just similar to Secretary Simon, to your comments, just asking for that space for them to grieve and to be supportive of the peaceful activities that will be happening there, knowing that this is yet another trauma on top of a trauma that we are all collectively experiencing right now, members of the Black community in particular. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Lieutenant Governor. Hearing no further discussion, I would now call roll call vote of each member. Secretary Simon, how do you vote?
Aye.
Auditor Blaha?
Aye.
Lieutenant Governor Flanagan?
Aye.
And I, Governor Walz, vote in favor of the motion. The motion carries and Emergency Executive Order 2118 is approved. Before I ask for a motion to adjourn, are there any final thoughts from the Executive Council?
Governor, if I may.
You are recognized, Lieutenant Governor.
Thank you, Governor. And I would just say, echoing some of your comments from earlier this afternoon, Governor, that we are in a moment that demands action of each and every one of us, and in particular of our partners in the legislature and in the Senate specifically. There's an opportunity for us to move and to move thoughtfully forward in passing legislation that sees the inherent dignity in all people and works to ensure that every member of our community can feel seen and heard and safe and valued. And I am eager to do that work, as I know that many of us, many folks in the community feel the same way. And that urgency is not lost on me, and I know it is not lost on the folks on this call.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. Yes, well said. And I think for most of us, it's not an overstatement. I think the next several weeks will shape the direction of our state for generations, depending on how we react and how we respond to the moment. So I very much appreciate that, Lieutenant Governor. I appreciate this council taking these very difficult decisions to create that space to have that conversation. This is not a step we take lightly, but to protect our community, it's necessary. So with that, I would call for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And I'll call for a roll call vote of each member. Secretary Simon.
Aye.
Auditor Blaha.
Aye.
Lieutenant Governor Flanagan.
Aye.
And I, Governor Walz, vote in favor of the motion. This meeting of the Executive Council is now adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.